Ahead of the crucial GST Council meet that will likely ratify the government's proposed cut in GST rates as well as reduce slabs from the existing 4 to just 2. That's 5% and 18% with an additional 40% tax slab on demerit goods like luxury cars and tobacco. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the next-gen GST will make the Indian economy absolutely open and transparent, and it will reduce compliance burden on small businesses. Now remember, the proposed changes in GST are likely to bring all food items and textiles into the 5% tax slab. Similarly, white goods like TVs, air conditioners and refrigerators will now be all brought into the 18% tax slab. But in not the best news for consumers, few items like large cars, potentially even luxury electric vehicles and some sin items like tobacco will now attract 40% tax, but additional cess will be done away with. Now, could there be more surprises coming consumers' way between today and tomorrow and the 2 days of the GST Council meet? And are these safeguards, there should be any safeguards that the government should be wary of and keep their guards up against? Let's discuss with a panel of experts joining me on the show today. Subhash, Garg, former Finance Secretary, Teresa, Deputy Head of Research and Lead Economist at Nirmal, and Dilip, Chenoy, Chairman of India Battery Swapping Association. Thank you so much all for joining me here today. Mr. Garg, let me begin first by having your take on this all-important GST Council meet today. Now, we know for a fact that there are going to be two primary slabs, 5% and 18%, and a 40% slab for demerit goods, as the government is calling it. Now, is there a likelihood of consumption not really increasing in line with government's expectations simply because food items and textiles being brought down to 5% may not immediately spur demand, given the price elasticity of demand in these essential items may be low?
So, see, the two big agenda before the committee meeting is to reform the rate slab and also to provide the consumption boost by what Prime Minister dubbed as the Diwali gift, giving away the tax revenue for consumers to sort of raise their consumption expenditure. The reform agenda we have actually about 7 rates today, and this will bring down to 5. To that extent, this is a reform, definitely, but not the game changer or fundamental reform of the GST tax structure, which the economists and have been asking for. Good to that extent, whatever reforms are coming. But the real thing is in the giveaways. What kind of tax revenues are we going to give away? We have a low neutral rate today, 11.6% or something. GST to GDP has hovered at about 6.5%. If we give away about 1.5 to 2 lakh crores of the GST revenue from the base of 22 lakh crores, then the government finances would come under strain.
Right.
Especially that of the state governments, because they bear a larger part of the GST giveaway.
That's right.
Now, how the consumption is going to be affected, I think it will depend upon 2 major factors. Number one, whether the tax giveaways are passed on by the manufacturers and the dealers to the consumers or not. There is doubt about it. There is a lot of complexity in it.
Right.
How do you calculate actually what kind of difference it is making to their tax liability and all? And secondly, whether the government comes up with this anti-profiteering rules or something. If they bring that anti-profiteering rule, it will mean that the government wants this to be passed on to the consumers, but it complicates the scenario for the corporates. So I don't know. What we see, one instance we can see very well how industry is looking at. You saw the car dispatches by, which is the biggest item of the giveaway, so to say.
You're right.
September there is a 8%. In August there is an 8% reduction by wholesalers to the retailers, which means that they're not anticipating very high kind of consumption boost. But let's watch.
Mr. Garg, hold your thought there. We will try and come back to you. But Teresa, John, car dispatches also in the monsoon season happen to be, an all different story, and we will get Dilip Chenoy's view on that. But what I want to understand from you is specifically on this SBI research report that came, which said that tax collection could potentially fall by as much as 85,000 crore rupees. But consumption could increase by about 2 lakh crore rupees or so. Now, given the fact that GST collection has been on a roll, just last month we saw data suggesting that there's been a 6.5% increase in GST collection by the government. How much of a dent is that going to take, given that the overall tax slabs are being rationalized downwards and there is going to be a likelihood of items getting cheaper and hence lower tax collection by the government?
Yeah, so in the near term, there will definitely be a revenue hit for the government. So in our estimates, it depends on how much of the goods in the 28% bracket actually move to the 18% bracket, and
Right.
most of the goods in the 12% bracket will anyway move to the 5%.
5%.
Maybe a few could move to the 18% bracket. But the revenue loss, it could be close to 1 lakh crore in a base case scenario, could be higher also at 1.5 lakh crore in a worst case scenario. So there will definitely be revenue loss. I think obviously the revenue concern could be for the state government, but one giveaway for the states would be the fact that if you bring the GST compensation cess into the 40% tax slab, and that is shared with the states. So from 2022 till 2025, the GST compensation cess has not been shared with the state governments. It
That's
has
right.
been used to repay the back-to-back loans and to some extent to fund the center's fiscal deficit. So now if that compensation cess is encompassed in the 40% slab and then shared with the states, for the states, it could not be that much of a big revenue loss. So that could ensure buy-in from the states for the tax cuts. But definitely, I think the center will have to take, at least in the near term, some hit on their revenues.
Right.
But
So
even in
some
a worst case scenario, we don't think it'd be more than 20 basis points of GDP.
20 basis point of GDP. Well, that's a worst case scenario. Dilip Chenoy, there are also reports which are now suggesting that electric vehicles, which have thus far enjoyed that very pretty 5% tax slab, some of the luxury electric vehicles could move to the higher 40% tax slab. What does this mean for the industry, given the fact that the government has been all along trying to incentivize the purchase of electric vehicles? Now, a 40% tax slab on cars costing X amount of money, apparently, is that likely to dent India's overall EV vision?
No, I think there are many things in which the group of ministers and the central government agreed on. But the taxation of EVs was one area where there was not complete agreement. I think the center is still pushing for a short to mid-term concessional rate of taxation across all EVs at 5%, whereas the group of ministers and others have actually looked at these three slabs for EVs, one which are below 20 lakhs, the others between 20 to 40 lakhs, and the one above 40 lakhs. So that's the current discussion that is happening here. But one of the challenges here is that the timing of this current GST Council meeting and the festive season is kind of coincided. So one of the reasons that you're seeing a decline in wholesale sales to dealers is because there's a hope that the vehicle GST would reduce, and therefore they would be able to supply the vehicles at a lower rate. But one thing is for certain, and I think you've heard all the chambers actually come out on behalf of industry of saying that whatever GST cuts are given as a result of GST Council, they are planning to pass on the benefits to the customer
Right.
and not retain any of it. I think Mr. Garg's point about this concern and the reintroduction of the anti-profiteering clause is, a view. But I think industry here is very clear that they will pass it on going forward. And I
Right.
think this is a part of a process, right? I think maybe 2 years down the line, you'll see a further simplification of this slabs going forward.
All right. So let's hope that the companies do pass those benefits down to the consumers. But Mr. Garg, there are anomalies in the current GST system, and one of those happens to be the inverted duty structure. Again, very relevant for electric vehicles. How do you think the GST Council is going to address that in the context of these next-gen GST reforms?
See, when you have so many slabs, including zero rate or 3% or 5% kind of thing, and you try to fit in the entire supply chain structure into those kind of rates and slabs, the issues of inverted duty structure come in. It is in the custom side, it's also in the GST side.
Right.
It's not, there is no principle which you can take except that there should not be an inverted duty structure. But that is not you can address by when you have so many or multiplicity of the rate structure. The solution to that is to move further. Now from 7 to 5, if can we move further to 3 as soon as possible? That is the way to go about. What I would just like to say about one thing. The proposal or the talk about the anti-profiteering rule
Yeah.
is there in the government. I don't wish this comes.
All right.
Because if it comes, it complicates.
Right.
Let us leave it to the industry to decide what kind of benefits they are getting from this and what the market can bear depending upon the demand and the supply structure and all.
Right.
If the government interferes in it, then it will complicate and
Got it.
there would be chaos
Right.
all the way.
Sure, point well taken, Mr. Garg. Teresa, John, I also want to bring up this contentious issue on health insurance premium and GST on health as well as life insurance premium. And that has been doing the rounds for as many GST Council meets in the last 2 years that I can remember. And now there was also a voice from the industry saying that a cut in GST rates on health insurance may not give them the benefit of the IDC, and that may in turn make health insurance even costlier, if not at best keep it the same. So how do you think the GST Council should manage and navigate this complex issue of insurance premium?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the GST Council will need to take into consideration the ultimate impact on the consumer or the the purchaser of the insurance policy. I think bringing down the insurance, the tax slab on insurance premiums would be beneficial, but I think it will also depend on the extent of pass through. So as Mr. Subhash Garg was saying, I mean, it will also depend on the anti-profiteering clause and the extent of monitoring of the pass through of the insurance cut that will be eventually passed on to the consumer. That will need to be monitored.
All right. Final word to you, Dilip, Chenoy. As far as the auto sector is going, and the health of the auto sector pretty much, at some level is still the barometer for the health of the economy. What was being mentioned, and I told you I will come to you on that, was that auto dispatches have actually been slow in the month of August. But given the fact that it has been monsoon season and in the advent of the festive season coming up, in any case, auto sales are likely to increase come Diwali, and now with this double bonanza of lower GST. How do you think the auto sector is poised from here to sell more cars? Because we've in any case been doing 4 million plus cars a year. So how do you think the auto sector from here is going to shape up?
So I think there are going to be two fundamental things happening in this festive season. If the EV duties pan out as the government wants them, not necessarily as the GST Council wants them, you would see a tremendous uptake of the EV segments going forward. The second thing, which I also mentioned earlier, is that the current dispatches are held up because of the uncertainty on the GST front going forward. If the clarity comes, and if it is in the other than the special rate for the luxury vehicles, if the other the rate is at the lower rate, which we hope will be 18%, right? Then you will see at least demand picking up, and you will see immediate kind of release of vehicles into the market. Right. So the festive season, the coinciding of the monsoon and the festive season is a tricky one. Yeah. I tried looking in the past when it happened. It's not really actually happened.
Okay.
In the years when Diwali and Dussehra have been early, the monsoon has actually stopped early.
Receded. True.
This time it's not happened.
Right.
So it's a big challenge there.
All right, let's see how that challenge gets mitigated. But Subhash, Chandra, Garg, Teresa, John, Dilip, Chenoy, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here on this very important GST Council meet story that we are tracking all day today.